Elementor just went and released a beta version of 3.24 or beta version 3.24, and you need to get it for free and pro. I'm going to have a look at some of the features. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is like a taster version. So what we now have is these new floating bars. We had the floating buttons released in version 3.23, but maybe now you want to have some ticker tape moving from left to right or right to left at the top or bottom. Maybe you're showcasing like a coupon, or maybe, just like news items. You can now do this with Elementor 3.24. Remember, this is a beta version. Now, it's not absolutely perfect. There is something I feel they should do to make it even more versatile, but I'll mention that when we get to it. We're also told about creative freedom with variable fonts. So when you get fonts, they tend to be weighted in 100, 200, 300, 400, etc. You can now modify that using this feature. Maybe you want to have a particular weighting between 400 and 500, and you want to go with 450, and you're searching around on the web and you can't find that exact weighted size. This might be quite useful for you. We're also told about enhancements on performance optimization, and I have been quite impressed by what they've been doing lately. They really are addressing some of the issues, and I have seen that when you start to load in Elementor from the get-go, you will now get really good high speed without having to rely on lots of code snippets and other things that I was doing in the past. That doesn't mean you don't do them. I mean, you still might need a performance plugin, but it's really good to see that there are improvements being made here, especially with the CSS reduction. We're also told about streamlined workflow with display conditions. By the way, a link for this will be in the video description. They have also made some enhancements with the search filter feature as well. But I'm going to have a quick look at the variable font, and I'm also going to have a look at the ticker tape floating bar as well. First thing you may want to do, though, is make sure that you go over to Elementor. I am doing this real time, by the way. I haven't gone and set any screens up. Go over to version control and make sure you have enabled beta testing to be enabled. Always do this on a dummy, a staging, or a test site. Never do this on your live website. Once you've done that, go over to your plugins, and then you will get told that the beta version is now available. This is a test website, by the way, before anyone starts to jump up and down about what kind of plugins I've got on here. You will then be upgrading to the beta version, okay? Not the developer version, not the final release versions either. Then what you want to do is for the floating bars, you want to go over to template, and you should already have floating elements enabled if you're keeping up to date with the current versions. Make sure you got Flexbox container enabled as well in your Elementor settings. What you're going to do is click add new floating element. And what we were seeing before in 3.23 was the floating buttons feature over here. Well, we now have floating bars. So I've gone and selected that, and I'm going to call this float bars 1, and I'm going to click create floating element. You're going to get loads of templates. It's a little bit tricky to see this, unless you go and zoom in on your screen. In fact, I will do that a little bit there just so you can see things a bit clearer. And what you have is like some top bars, and you have some bottom bars as well. And you can click into these and have a look at them. But I'm going to scroll down to this one over here, and you can just about see it. Let me just get rid of this cookies message. Can you see it is moving left to right? And you can change the direction to go from left to right. Did I say left to right before, or right to left? Anyway, you can switch it around as well. There is a little bit of a flaw, I feel, with how I might want to use this, and it's a really minor thing, and I will show you that in a moment. The idea is that, and by the way, you could have one at the top that might says, you might want it displayed on every page of your website or your shop pages or particular posts. You do have display conditions available here, but you might say that throughout your website, you want everyone to know that if you buy products now, you get free shipping, or there's a free offer, or there's a special coupon code, or you're doing something for Black Friday. Anyway, we're going to go and insert this. You're now in the template area, so ignore all of the gunk and funk that you get over here. But at the bottom down here, we have our ticker tape. And over here, you can see the content. So we have headlines. Basically, you would go in and fill these in. So I'm going to go and change this to say, wow, with a hyphen. And you'll see it over there. It has got some settings enabled where it pauses when I hover. I'll show you that in a moment. But you can change that. You can also add in a link. So maybe you want these to be linkable. Maybe you're just going to state particular products. Or maybe you're going to say something. Maybe you're trying to drive them somewhere within your website. maybe contact me, and it might say click here to contact me or something like that. And then you click it and it would actually go over to that particular page or even a particular post as well. You're showcasing something like a coupon code. You could click it and it then takes them to a dedicated page for that particular coupon. And maybe you've got some terms and conditions or caveats or prerequisites or, stuff like that. By the way, if this is the first time you're watching, I'm Imran from Web Squadron. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and follow. Hey, look, I love creating videos to help a lot of you out with WordPress and Elementor, and I really hope you appreciate everything I do for you. You can add in your own icon, you can take away an icon, so you don't have to have it with the icon, click that, or you could upload your own SVG. You could also add further items. Now, I did add in a image source into here, and I wanted to see, could I add in an image? So rather than having text, could I have product images? And then it would link over to that product. It didn't work for me. So someone might want to have a look at that and experiment. But working with text, it works perfectly, absolutely fine. The ticker tape, you can have it set to autoplay or on page scroll. And I think this one is really interesting because you could now have it at the bottom of your page, but it doesn't start scrolling until you move down. And this is where I feel like the flaw I'm going to mention in a moment. And if I'm doing it wrong, please point out to me in the comments. Hey, Imran, this is all you had to do to make it work. So what I'm going to show you, I keep mentioning it and you're probably going, what is the flaw? What are you talking about? I will show you. But if they got this working with page scroll, it would be brilliant. Anyway, let's leave it on autoplay. You can choose your direction, so move to the left, or do you want to go right to left, left to right? I always get my head a bit messed up with this. You can also mess around with the speed, so I'm going to do this so it goes really, really quick. Or you could make it go really, really slow. I'm just going to get rid of the value so it goes back to what the default speed is. In fact, I'm going to do that just so that you can definitely see it moving. The floating bar, ticker tape, pause on hover. So that's enabled, right? You hover, you get pause. If I undo that, it will now just keep moving regardless of whether I have hovered on it. Let's pop it back to left. The floating bar, pause and play. So you can now also have like a pause button. Do you see that over there? Now, I'm not an accessibility expert, but from an accessibility point of view, this is quite important because some people don't want to have or see stuff like that all the time. It can be a little bit annoying. Let me just pop this onto full screen. I just realized because it looks a bit better. From an accessibility point of view, if you just got animation happening like that, for some people, it's not great, especially if there's any visual impairment or they want to click and they're not quick enough, or it's really annoying and it's not great. So having a pause button like that, you click it, you see it's paused, you hit play, it then plays. So that's really, really good. You can also add in a close button as well. So if you want to now get rid of it and you click it, I mean, it won't do it here because we're in the template, but when you click it, it will now remove that. This is neat. This, I think, is Elementor thinking a little bit deeper and further. And for anyone who's massively into accessibility, I think this is a really good thing. And also you can go and add in a name. You can go and modify your style, okay? You can decide on the position. If I go like this, was the icon going to be on the left or right of the text? Change the color of the icon, change the color of the text icon, the typography. Go to the floating bar. If you are going to show the controls, you can decide if they're on the right-hand side, which is down here, or you can move them over to the left and they jumped there. Again, you can mess around with the colors as well. You can even add in a background image. There's a lot of styling options in there. The really good one, though, is the advanced tab where you can decide, is it at the bottom or is it at the top? And is it going to be sticky? So it will be there. And then as you scroll down, it won't follow you with the page. So you could have it at the top saying, coupon offer or even just a ticker tape. And as you scroll down, it will then eventually disappear. The first thing you're going to do is go and hit publish when you've gone and designed and set this up. And then you're going to decide where will this be visible. Is it on the entire site or is it only going to be on particular pages or posts? I've gone and set up a post page called 324 because a version 3.24 kind of makes sense, right? And I'm now going to hit save and close. And I'm going to go to my floating elements. And here it is, okay? But I don't have I have an instance, but I don't have a shortcode. What I mean by that is that if I go over to my templates, you normally would see a shortcode like this. Okay, so I'm just going to take that. It's currently for 3499. We don't have the shortcode. And you're going to understand in a moment what I'm talking about, because I'm going to go over here to the floating elements again. And if I hover over this, you can probably see the text in the bottom left corner. It says post 4129. Remember that. Now we're going to go over to page 324 where we actually enabled it. And when I've gone in and I've gone and added in 3 other containers just so we had it visible at the top there, we've now got our bar, and you can see it pauses when I hover. We got the pause button, we got the close because I left them in. And because this is still sticky, can you see it remains at the top? Then it keeps scrolling. If I go back into edit with Elementor onto this float thing, let's just go back over to the advanced tab. I'm going to say don't make it sticky because I just want to show you something, and then I'm going to explain the flaw. I know I keep saying it. And when I scroll down, it's not there. If you go over to edit, you're still going to see it, okay? And you might think, well, why is it doing that? It's not sticky. But when you do that, it is now disappeared. Now, here's the flaw, okay? I've dropped into this container the shortcode widget. And I'm going to change this to say 4129 because I'm pretty sure that's what it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 4129. And when I go over to my page now, you can see the top one because it's displays there. And then we've got this shortcode. The problem is that even though I have got this set inside of this container to be justified and aligned in the center, because maybe I want to have this ticker tape or coupon thing or whatever in the middle, because you know there was a setting for it to move as you page scroll. So maybe I don't want it right up there or at the bottom. I want it somewhere here, maybe in section number 2. And I want it to move as you scroll so it looks like an animated feature. Because this, if we go back to the advanced tab for, where are we? Let's just go back over here. We'll go to the advanced tab. Because it's set to be at the top, it will now go to the top. Now, there is no, sorry, let me make sure I'm in the right one. If we go back over here, there is no margin and padding. So I'm going to go over to the custom CSS and I'm now going to type in selector and we're going to go for something like margin top. And I'm going to say 200, no, we'll go a bit more. We'll go with 400 pixels, okay? And then we're going to go and hit publish. And I go to my page now. You can see it's applied it to both of them. You might go, I can only see one. Well, that was the top one. And there's the second one. So you can do it. I feel this is a bit of a flaw. I feel like I shouldn't have to go down to the CSS route, go and drop it in, or enable us to return it as a shortcode. So give us the actual shortcode rather than me having to go in, because not everyone's going to realize that. And I know you might say, yeah, but we just want it to stick to the top and bottom. I feel like with a bit of thought, you can make this be even more versatile. So what I'm going to do is go back over to my template, which is here. I'm going to go to display conditions and I'm going to remove the display conditions, right? So I'm now going to hit save and close because when I go back over to my page and I refresh it, I will now only have one. There's only one now, okay? Because before you had the top one, which was set to be visible on page 324. And then I went and added in this shortcode. And if I go back into editing the actual ticker tape, I'm now going to say on page scroll, hit publish. We're not going to publish it anyway. Go back over to my page. You will now see it stopped moving, but it moves when I scroll. See that? So this is where you can take what you've got and just think out the box. Now, I've spent way too long talking about this, but I just wanted to get across that you could use this on the top or bottom. There's loads of templates. Have a look at which ones you like, play around with it, modify it, change the colors in the background and all of that. But you could also do something a bit funky. I mean, this looks a bit weird, to be honest. When I look at it more, I go, it doesn't really work. Let's now look at the variable fonts. Now, one thing about this, which I don't completely like, is that this does use TTF files. Now, I always recommend you use WOF2 because they can be almost 20% of the size of a TTF font. So at the moment, what this is going to allow you to do is have variable weightings so you don't have to rely on just 100, 200, 300, 400. You could go in between or whatever scale you want to go for. But you do have to use, I'm just going to go to Elementor custom fonts. You do have to use a TTF. I'm not a fan of that. So the great thing is you could go to Google Fonts website. You're easily going to find TTF and you can download it. I wish this was more workable with WOF2. Maybe it's just down to the way that WOF2, because of the way it's compressed and all that, you can't do that. I mean, I'm not an expert on the inner workings of the TTF and the WAF2 and the WAF and any other format. I just know what I recommend you use. But maybe there's something about the WAF2 where you just can't do it. Please stick it in the comments if you know more. What you need to do is first go to custom fonts, add new. We are now going to add in pop-ins, and I'm going to go and add in a variable font. We're going to load in a TTF file. And like I said, if you haven't already got it, go over to Google, just type Google Fonts and you'll find it. Go and find your particular font. Now I've typed in pop-ins, and if you go over here, you'll notice it says 18 styles. None of these are actual variable. What you need is a variable font. So if I was to go and now type in Montserrat, you'll see here it says variable 2 axes. So if I go to Montserrat with variable 2 axes and I now get that font and you download it, you will actually see a folder in there that is gonna, well, a file in there that will be called variable. This can catch people out because if you go and download, say, Pop-ins or Lato or something like that, unless you get it from somewhere else where they may already have the variable present, you won't have a variable font. And if you go over to add new font, like here, I've gone and called it Pop-ins. I'm going to change it in a moment. And you upload like a file that is 200, and then you're now going to mess around with that. It ain't going to work for you. It's got to be a variable font. So I'm just going to call this Mont V. And if I now go to upload and I go to upload files, select files, you're going to see here in Pop-ins, we don't have variable. We got loads of sizes. We go to Lato, there is no variable, but we go to this Montserrat one. You'll have the static, okay? So you're going to have to just have a bit of a think here. Don't go and go, oh, I'll just upload the black one and modify it. It ain't going to work for you. So I'm going to go with the variable font over here, and it is a TTF, and it's 385 kilobytes, and I bet as a WAF2, it's going to be about 35 or 40 kilobytes, which is why I prefer WAF2 to TTF. Anyway, we've gone and selected it. And I'm now going to decide on my width and my weight. I'm going to set the minimum weight to be 100 and the maximum weight, we'll leave it as 1000. And if you want to just go with, say, 300 to 600, because you're only ever going to be working within those parameters in terms of the weight size of the font, go and stick 100, 1000, 300 or 600 in. Now, the width one here, minimum width and max width, I'm not entirely sure about this. So I'm just going to leave it as 0 and 150. Right, we're going to go and hit publish. So there's our Montfi. Let's go over to one of our example pages, which is this one here. And we're going to drop in a heading widget. I'm going to go to my style. I'm going to go to my typography. And I'm now going to select Montv as a variable font. It's not a custom font. It's a variable font. So let's go and pick that. And it's currently gone to a default weight. But watch this. If I now just go and hit the up sign, it starts at 100. And if I was to now change this to be 200, can you see the size? In fact, let me go with something a little bit more dramatic. Let's go with 400. In fact, should we just duplicate this just to make it easier on the eye? So let's go with 400, and there we have 500. Let's just now duplicate that. And we go back over here to typography, and now I'm just going to increase it 450. Can you see there is a bit of a difference? I don't know if you can or not, but let me zoom in. Can you see there? That's 450. 400. 500. That is definitely weightier than that. Brilliant, brilliant feature. But we also have this width value here, which I'm still a little bit confused. I feel like this obviously must relate to the responsive size. Someone please advise me, okay, in the comments as to what I'm missing here. But I just want to point out there is this feature here. Now, unless it is massively, massively important, you may just leave it like that. I mean, I will, just for checking purposes, go over to the mobile, go back to typography, and again, the width. I'm not entirely sure of what's going on here. I'm not sure, but the weighting one is definitely, I think, a killer feature in terms of, and I mean killer in a good way. I don't mean like, oh my God, this is dangerous in a bad way. I mean, in a good way, this now means that you could make the fonts on your page not be rigid. So that is the variable fonts feature. I had planned this to be a short 5-10 minute video, but it's obviously a lot longer because I really wanted to get a little bit nitty gritty with regards to some of the features here. So you got your floating bars, you got your variable fonts. I haven't gone into enhanced CSS loading, but we do have improvements, and we have got some with display conditions as well, where you can copy and paste them and you can reset them as well. And of course, some enhancements with the search facility. There will be more videos coming out once we got the final version of this, but if you want to go and test out Elementor beta version 3.24, You can do that now, and there's a link in the video description that will take you to this page. Hey, I'm Imran from Web Squadron. See you soon.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings.